Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of the consumption function. In this video, we're going to talk about what else besides current disposable income changes consumption. Let's recap for a second. Why do we put current disposable income on the graph called the consumption function? Because it's the number one thing that determines consumption. Usually what we say, or what we do in economics, is we say, hey, what's the number one thing that affects that thing that we want to know about, which is consumption? And that is, for this particular case, is current disposable income. Your amount of current disposable income is the number one thing that determines consumption. But of course, there's other things that determine your level of consumption besides your income. Well, those things, what we will say is they're exogenous to the function, okay? Exogenous just means external. They're not in the function itself. If we actually look at an algebraic expression of the function, we've got consumption equals the marginal propensity to consume times your level of disposable income plus autonomous consumption, which is simply the vertical intercept of the consumption function right there. So what I'm really asking is, what else out there in the world changes consumption besides the stuff that's in the function, specifically disposable income? Well, one of the things that should come to our mind right off the bat is our wealth. Income is important, but certainly our wealth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of like do a little bracket thing or a little cloud thing to show that what I'm talking about is external to the function. And the first thing I'm going to write is wealth, okay? Consumer wealth. The two things we should think the most about when it comes to consumer wealth, at least for the average household, is the value of their house and the value of stocks, okay? If the stock market, crashes, meaning stock prices come way down, hey, there's a lot of households that have their wealth in stocks, and so when that stock market crashes, they feel their wealth coming down, and that's going to change their level of consumption. In fact, from a graphical standpoint, we would say it's going to change their level of consumption at all levels of current disposable income. Hence, the consumption function itself would shift downward. Okay, once again, exogenous variables to the function cause functions to shift. Okay, when endogenous variables like current disposable income change, we simply move along curves. Okay, the whole function is built to handle changes in endogenous variables. But when an exogenous variable like wealth changes, the consumption function shifts. Okay, so once again, stock market crashes, household wealth comes down. When household wealth comes down, the consumption function shifts downward. Also, like I said, houses, right? Housing prices. As you probably know, in 2007, 2008, we had a Great Recession. The Great Recession, at the center of it, was a housing market crash, okay? Or some people call it the housing bubble crashing. But here's the thing. Housing prices came crashing down. So people felt themselves being less wealthy, and consumption came crashing down with it. Now, what else changes our consumption? Well, our expectations about the future. What I would like to call consumer confidence, okay? In some textbooks, they might say consumers' expectation about their future disposable income. But what is a consumer's expectation about their future disposable income? Hey, that's mainly determined by their consumer confidence. So consumer confidence, another exogenous variable that would cause the consumption function to shift up and down. Let's say that people become more optimistic. They get more optimistic about their expectations about their future disposable income. Well, the consumption function would shift up, which would mean that we would get more consumption at all levels of disposable income. All right, we've got those two, and we've got current disposable income. I want to talk about two more things that are going to change consumption. And these two things actually change current disposable income. What are these two things that change current disposable income that are important enough to make it into this video? Taxes. You can kind of think personal income taxes, and transfer payments, okay? So personal income taxes, taxes on income. Well, hopefully you can understand taxes on income are going to change your current disposable income, so they're really important. So taxes. And then, of course, transfer payments. Transfer payments is the transfer of money from the government to the household. It's not the government buying a good or a service. It's simply the transfer of money from the government to the household. Some of the transfer payments that we can kind of think about are Social Security and unemployment compensation. Okay? So transfer payments. If those change, Once again, household income changes, and if household income changes, household consumption will change. So, as we wrap up this second video on consumption, what are the 5 things that change consumption that we've talked about in these 2 videos? Number 1, current disposable income. Number 2, wealth. Think housing values and the stock market, okay? Number 3, consumer confidence. Number 4, taxes on income. And number 5, transfer payments. Those are the 5 things right now that we've got affecting consumption. Certainly there's some others, but those are the big 5 at this point in Unit 3. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video.